What's going on, everybody? This is B. Scott.
God, you talking to a god right now.
And the third wheel.
And this is the first four downs. Let's get it.
Welcome to the first four downs. Week 2 is in the books. Right now we have a couple of injuries this week. Drew Brees went down. Big Ben went down. Those are the two biggest ones. And we're going to look over how they might impact your fantasy and possibly see if you can get a good pickup off the waiver wire this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger's out the entire season. So what kind of true ramifications is that going to make, especially to a lot of fantasy teams with guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, James Conner, Vance McDonald like we've seen. So, God, what do you think?
It should be no news by now, but Roethlisberger sucks. His backup Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State University. That kid is dynamite, man. You know what I'm saying? Over the past 2 seasons, I think people have forgotten the name Mason Rudolph because he's been pretty much benched, being primed, getting ready to take over the organization. He had almost 5,000 passing yards and 37 touchdowns with a very low interception rate in the senior season at Oklahoma State. Crazy deep ball passer to James Washington, who was also on the team in those years. In those years that they played together, Washington, 3 out of the 4 years, had 1,000 yards and 10 plus touchdowns with an average of 20 yards per carry. So that's a lot of love there. Huge upside for James Washington and Mason Rudolph. I think it hurts Juju a little bit, but this is definitely one of the top quarterbacks coming off the waiver this week. If you have Ben Roethlisberger as your starter, your team probably already sucked. But this is a chance for you to upgrade there. I'm really excited to see what that dynamic that they had in college, what that'll translate to the NFL. I think rest of the season, though, you think about the rapport that he has with James Washington, I think that automatically is going to put James Washington the number one receiver there. Washington is a dynamic playmaker. You know what I mean? Ridiculous catches. He's going to catch a lot of deep balls out of there. It's going to be a lot of offense to be had out of there to spread the field out more for Juju, for Vance McDonald, for James Conner. So, you know what I mean? That's my number one quarterback coming off the waiver this week.
Yeah, I worry about Juju a little bit. Obviously, you expect his target share to probably go down with James Washington increasing. Moncrief has showed that he's not very good.
Sucks.
I mean, come on. Let's be real. Moncrief's terrible. I still don't understand why he's ahead of James Washington on the depth chart. That's going to change very soon. I like Vance McDonald a little bit more. I think he'll get a little bit more of the target share. Not huge ramifications, but definitely start worthy, I would say, especially tight ends not being very strong. And then you're looking at I'd be looking this week to buy Juju. And it's crazy to think about it because you expect his production to possibly go down, but I still think he's a viable option. And somebody who's going to be maybe extremely worried about that, you might be able to get him for a decent price. I mean, don't sell yourself, but if you can get him for a cheap value, I would take him on my team, especially if you're looking for a wide receiver too, or a guy, he's definitely a flex guy all day that you could set and forget, in my opinion. So
he's not going to lose snap count. I mean, that's just.
Yeah, so buying Juju, that would mean that you're giving away some of your team. You know what I mean? Juju's already off to a terrible start. So if you're looking for a receiver on the waiver wire, McLaurin is somebody who could possibly fill that role for your team. I love what Washington is doing with this guy. Even though Paul Richardson is there, he's clearly the number one. Case Keenum's throwing the ball. He looks like he did with the Vikings. You know what I'm saying? And if he gets any kind of production the way he did with Stephon Diggs and Thielen out of the slot, you know what I mean, with McLaurin and Trey Quinn out of the slot, I mean, that's going to be a lot a decent fantasy production for McLaurin. If he starts to struggle, although he's playing well right now, you know what I mean, we might be able to see Haskins take over that role. They invested first-round draft capital in Haskins, and he looks like he's going to be the future there. We don't know if he's ready yet, but him and McLaurin also have a connection going back to college at Ohio State last season. So I think regardless of the situation, McLaurin's rest of season value is going to be pretty much good as a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2.
Yeah, well, Case Keenum right now is sitting at number 5 after 2 weeks with 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 600 yards. So it doesn't look like he's going to give up that chair.
Well, yeah. It's not about really that. I was saying like in the lines of McLaurin losing touches or whatever like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think his target share will be just fine.
What I like about McLaurin is you see week 1, a lot of guys blow up. And it comes out as, not knowing the situation of the teams and how they're going to lay out when the season starts. Preseason's a joke. So when it comes down to it, week 1, you start to see this layout. And so McLaurin was a huge pickup week 1. And if he's still out there on your waiver, I mean, he should be your number 1 receiver, period. I mean, you're looking at a guy, he faced the Dallas Cowboys last week and still put up 50 yards and a touchdown on Byron Jones, top 5 corner in the league. Yeah, so who shadowed him pretty much. So it's showing that he's the real deal. I mean, he's got 18 targets on the year or something like that, 15 targets maybe, but almost 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, a touchdown back-to-back weeks. Yeah, McLaurin's the real deal. Flex guy all day, possibly wide receiver too the rest of the season. It's crazy to me. Similar thing with John Ross. If John Ross is still on the waiver,
the number 1 receiver in fantasy right now.
Yeah, he's available in 30% of fantasy leagues.
So. Yeah, he is now. But I'm saying if he's available for some foreseeable reason, him and McLaurin are the 1 and 2 receivers to pick up. I mean, John Ross 270 yards, 3 touchdowns. The Bengals are not getting better. They're going to be bad. They're going to have to throw the football.
Yeah, I think they're going to throw the football a lot, and they might end up with a top 15 offense. You think about A.J. Green, still yet to play this season, and the kind of coverage that he draws. You know what I mean? A player like John Ross, who depends on big play ability, big plays, period, that just helps him even more. So his rest of season value is pretty good as well. He's finally healthy and it's showing what he can actually do. So, yeah, the McLaurin, John Ross, number 1 pickups this week at wide receiver.
Yeah, and you know what? I got one more wide receiver that I would take a chance with, and that's DJ Chark on the Jaguars. Right. So what I like about the guy is he's got 200 yards receiving in 2 weeks. He's got a touchdown each game. He's already had rapport through the preseason and the offseason with Minshew. Minshew's starting quarterback at least the next 6 to 8 weeks. And honestly, if you're looking at being a Jaguars fan and then trading Ramsey, that defense is going to fall apart in my opinion, and it's not going to be looking good overall for the team. I mean, probably a bottom 5 team in the league after they trade Ramsey, depending on what they get back. But I see picks and I see a tanking season. So I think Chark has the opportunity to be playing in garbage time and making that money. So that's my wide receiver 3. I throw Deebo Samuels in there for the Niners too. I like him a lot for the sense that he's already starting at the wide receiver 2 position, easy strength schedule, stuff like that. So those are the wide receivers of the week for me. There's a couple other guys you could possibly throw out there. Nelson Aguilar because of injuries. Who else? Demarcus Robinson. We got to talk about him. Everyone's going to take him as the number 1 waiver. And he's in the Chiefs offense. I get it. I get why you're going to pick him up. But you're looking at a coin flip guy who you don't know what his value is going to hold on a weekly basis. And when Tyreek Hill comes back, he probably has 0 value. So you can pretty much, he's droppable in 2 to 3 weeks when Tyreek Hill's back.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily put him on my first waiver, but wrapping around on my second waiver, I would still put a waiver in for him just because, like you said, when Tyreek Hill comes back, I don't see a very big role for Robinson or McCole Hardman for that much. You know what I mean? Tyreek is just Tyreek, you know what I'm saying? So he's going to get his target share back, of course. I like DJ Chark. I just don't know anything about this quarterback. I don't know anything about this offense right now. And, yeah, he looks good so far. He had a great preseason. They like him a lot over there. We'll see what happens.
I just think his value could hold based on garbage time. I mean, realistically, the Jaguars, like I said, if they trade Ramsey for picks only and don't get players in return to help them out, it's a tanking season. They're a bottom 5 team. I mean, ultimately, they're already 0-2, right? So let's look at some running backs. We can get right into the running backs now. And this week at running back, there's a couple ads based on injury. Darwin Thompson is a huge name for me. LaShawn McCoy is dealing with an ankle. Damian Williams got the knee, and we don't know how severe these injuries are, but anytime those guys are going to miss, Darwin Thompson's already shown lightning effect when he's on the field. Give him 10, 15 touches. I mean, he's flex guy, possibly RB2 all day if those guys have to miss time. Anybody else at running back? Who do you got?
Yeah, I like Darwin Thompson, but my number 1 running back pickup this week is Raheem Mostert. This kid is absolutely dynamite. I can't really call him a kid because he's been in the league 7 years, but he's been mostly on special teams. can run, great ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He has the size and speed. If anything were to happen to Breida, to be a every down back, 5'11", 4'3" speed. What people don't realize is that this guy has track medals in the 100 and 200 meters. That's what gives him that ability to be a dynamic home run hitter just straight out of the backfield. With Shanahan loving slip blacks, I'm not worried about Breida at all for his production. What I am also not concerned about is Tevin Coleman. I think once Tevin Coleman comes back, he's probably lost his job. I don't know why they even paid for him.
Well, they paid for him because he fits in with Shanahan. He played with him, played under him, So obviously, coaches, you know how coaches are. They love bringing in guys that they've already had on their team. And they love those guys. So that's kind of where Coleman is. I'm in the same boat. I like Mostert a lot. I'm worried they have the 3-headed monster, not even 2-headed, 3-headed. So when you worry about not getting red zone touches, that's a big deal. I mean, Breida didn't have any. I think Mostert might have had 1 or 2, but Wilson had 5 or 6 red zone carries.
Yeah, he's built for that role. Wilson didn't have very many catches either. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm not really worried about how they're utilizing Mostert. He's clearly the RB2 there, and with Breida being a speedster, there's always in line for a chance for him to be injured. Right, not saying that he will or not. If he doesn't at all, I think his value still holds the same. Even if Tevin Coleman comes back, I think Wilson would be the odd guy out once Tevin Coleman comes back. You know what I mean, to play that role. But I absolutely love this guy. He's a beast. Go pick him up now if he's still available in your league.
The other guy I want to add in at the running back spot, probably, he's only owned about 43% of leagues. Offensive line ranked 4th in rushing right now. Even though he hasn't produced big numbers, is Carlos Hyde. That offensive line is absolutely ranked very, very good. And they're terrible at pass protection. We can all see that. Deshaun Watson getting beat up. But actually running, they're ranked fairly high. He's a guy that, of course, he's not going to be explosive, but if you got a spot, you need somebody to fill in for you, you're really sucking a tango, or especially if you're deep in a 12-man league, you should probably have this guy on your bench.
Yeah, I think so too. Like he said, he's running with a chip on his shoulder. He's tired of being traded. Duke Johnson hasn't really shown that he can actually be a starting running back, but he is going to be utilized. But like you said, man, in that offense, Carlos Hyde is just running like a killer right now. Back-to-back weeks, what was it, like 80-something yards. Last week he put up 90. So, I mean, they're standalone value for Carlos Hyde rest of the season, I think. We'll see if he tails off in the second half of the season, but I think as of for right now, he's a great pickup if you're in need of running back depth or you just need a starter.
Yeah, running backs have been honestly pretty weak this year. We've seen a lot of high-powered running backs struggle at times, and even having backups, it just hasn't looked good at the running back position. I mean, there's so many receivers that have really shown out that the running back position's really struggled. So, all right, after wide receivers and running backs, I mean, we could look at tight ends, but ultimately it's dart throw always. So for me, a tight end that possibly you might be able to start on a weekly basis is Jason Witten. Back-to-back weeks with a touchdown. He's not going to get you a huge amount of target share. He's not going to play a lot of even snaps. But in the red zone, when they need the touchdown, they're going to Witten.
Definitely
Old Faithful.
a target down there.
So that's a dart throw right there if you're looking for a tight end. Also, Herndon. We got 2 more weeks for his suspension, and by that time Darnold should be back and ready to go. I like Herndon a lot.
Yeah,
he came on strong last year, so.
Yeah, exactly. That's a guy that you want to be first on. If you wait another week, you may not get him. He's a great playmaker, great hands, freak athlete. Go get him. I'm telling you, especially back there with Le'Veon Bell, Demaryius Thomas over there. Come on, man. Go get Herndon. He's a beast. He's going to produce.
And if you drafted a guy like O.J. Howard, who's got 3 targets on the season,
yeah,
or even Jared Cook, who I think his value might increase with the injury, but still he hasn't really truly produced. So
yeah, we'll see about that. Teddy Bridgewater, he's only put up Kyle Rudolph 1 year, and the numbers wasn't that great. He averaged like 4.5 catches with Teddy Bridgewater. So on Cook's career, you know what I mean, it shows that he takes around 7 to 8 targets to be productive. So we'll see what happens there. I think Latavius Murray and Latavius Murray and Kamara will probably be leaned on a lot more. You know what I mean? But we'll see, though. You know what I mean? Who knows what Sean Payton could do with him?
Yeah, of course. So you got another tight end? You got another tight end?
Yeah. I like Disley a lot. Will Disley, Seattle Seahawks.
Will Disley.
Yeah, man. You know about Russell Wilson. He throws very efficient touchdowns. You look at Tyler Lockett last year, it was a touchdown on every seven catches that he made, you know what I mean? And Will Disley, he emerged last year on limited production as well, you know what I mean, before his season-ending injury or whatever. With his ability to block on a run-heavy team as the Seahawks are, that just ensures that his time on the field will be there, you know what I mean? So he'll get a lot of those play actions, a lot of those efficient touchdowns, so the production will always be there. What's going to be hard to do is predict it, you know what I mean? But if you need a tight end, you in those super flex type leagues where you could run a tight end out of your flex, hey, go pick him up. You couldn't do. I mean, there's a lot worse that you could possibly do.
Well, yeah, there's not too many tight ends available this year, so if you have to get him, then get him. I personally wouldn't stick with Disley just because he's sitting around a 56% snap count, and for me, that's a little low. You want your guy up in the 80s and 90s% snap count just so he's constantly on the field, but he did score, so.
He's coming off injury too. You got to remember that. And I only worry for the Seahawks, like you were saying, it's going to be a struggle to predict.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they don't throw the ball, sometimes they throw the ball a lot. Sometimes, you know what I mean? It's like, who knows where the targets are going? Look at Tyler Lockett, 2 targets week 1, 12 targets week 2.
Yeah.
So you never know what's going to happen. So that's me for the tight end. That's really ultimately the tight end position. It's a dart throw at best. So we got a couple defenses I think definitely should be owned. And for me, I'm going to start with the Niners. I'm sure they probably did get drafted if they did late, but I got the 49ers. You don't like the 49ers defense? They've looked great through the first 2 weeks. And you know what? The worst part about the 49ers is they still possibly might miss the playoffs even though they could win 10 games, because that division is just so stacked. They got the Seahawks 2-0, the Rams 2-0, and the Niners 2-0. Yeah. And really, the Cardinals, they ain't bad. They just ain't very good yet, So it's going to take time. That division actually is going to be ridiculous. Jimmy G's playing pretty solid. The defense looks great. They're running the ball great. I mean, ultimately, they're kind of firing on all cylinders right now. So Niners defense is definitely one to go pick up if they're available in your league for a season long, I would say. This week, obviously, Dallas Cowboys should be owned. They're playing the Dolphins. Get them in your lineup here. The Dolphins are horrible. And last defense we're going to look at is Green Bay Packers defense. Now, back-to-back weeks, play the Chicago Bears. That offense of the Bears just looks terrible, man. They really do. They struggled at Denver, barely squeaked out a win. Unbelievable, impossible 1-second timeout. And then they played the Vikings, who looked great week 1, running the football. Even gave up the same rushes. Dalvin Cook looked great against the Packers, but their defense played solid enough. And they're scoring fantasy points. Yeah,
Green Bay over 2 weeks has 19 points against, 6 sacks, 3 interceptions, and they're only owned in about 20% of leagues. So that means they're available.
All these guys, go get them.
Yeah, ultimately, this is the waivers that you want to have in your lineup. There's a lot of guys you could pick up, but based on your team, that's gonna designate your waiver priority.
Especially if you have one of those teams who's just injury riddled right now. There's been a lot of injuries in the first 2 weeks, so go out and get you some.
Yeah, absolutely.
McLaurin, Ross, Disley, Rudolph, Moser, Darwin Thompson,
DJ Shark.
With that, to wrap it up, it's First Four Downs. G.O.D., B. Scott, Third Wheel.